Thank you for joining us for this free webinar session presented by Professional Advantage. Today, we're going to be talking about how to improve cash flow, streamlining your processes, and reduce bad debt with Collect 365 for Dynamics 365. We estimate that today's webinar will take up about an hour of your time, including some time at the end for the Q&A. Our webinar is being recorded and will be available on demand after the live session. All attendees will receive a follow-up email after the webinar is complete with a link to access the presentation. With that being said, I'd like everyone to please submit questions through the question panel during the session or wait till the end for the Q&A. Please remember to stay muted during the session. I'd like to introduce Griffin Swanson, Chief Channel Product Manager at Professional Advantage. Griffin, you can take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Caitlin. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here now and pull open my PowerPoint. And as mentioned here, going to be showing you our collections tool for Business Central Microsoft Dynamics 365. So for starters, just want to thank the Sabre team for having Professional Advantage on here today. We do appreciate that. As well as anybody in attendance, we do appreciate you taking the time out of your day to view Collect 365. Again, my name is Griffin Swanson from Professional Advantage, the channel product manager for our ISV add-on modules. Now, how today's demonstration is going to work is we're going to kick it off with a short PowerPoint here, kind of going through some of the background information of our collection tools, as well as some of the benefits to using our collections tools. After we get through this short PowerPoint, we're going to hop right into Business Central. I'm going to take you through the core module here today, and then show you how we can actually set up some of your collection activities, create notes, send emails, as well as query a set list of customers. Again, today's demonstration, from my perspective, should take about 30 minutes, and then we'll have time at the end for Q&A, as Caitlin mentioned. For starters here, let's kick it off with just a little bit of background information and what we're going to be focusing on here today from a collection practice. So Professional Advantage actually developed a collections tool back in 1997, collections management for Microsoft Dynamics GP. And in 2001, Microsoft actually took that product from us under an OEM agreement and included it as a core GP product for about a decade. And then in 2013, they shipped the module back to us. We've been developing it ever since and supporting it since 2013. We have roughly about 2,500 customers using that module today. The reason I mention that is because Microsoft actually reached out to us in 2020 and basically said, hey, can you guys make the exact same collections product for Business Central? And while they're certainly going to look a little different, the functionalities will be slightly different as well. The goal for us was to take our collections tool from GP and basically make the exact product for Business Central. But again, being that they are different ERPs, they do slightly work different. But due to the popularity of collections in GP and being that this has been driven from Microsoft directly, it didn't take much for us to say, yep, we're on board for this, creating our collections tool for Business Central. What I want to focus on here next, though, is really some of the problems customers see today when they're doing their collections and how our collections tool helps solve that problem. You know, one of the problems we see today, and the first thing I want to highlight, is there's a lot of decentralized information in the sales and accounts receivable areas. One of the problems we see is companies don't have the ability to keep collection history on their customers in Business Central. So they may print off an age trial balance, they may keep some post-it notes, or perhaps they're sharing an Excel file. But the main problem with that is there's really no way to share those notes, conversations, or history with other users, at least not in Business Central. So Collect 365 adds value in number one, the Collect 365 main window or collection hub. So this is really going to be the command center for the product, and it's great for ad hoc inquiry. You're going to be able to use that window for creating your notes and setting up your follow-up tasks. You're also going to be able to access what we call a one-off email from that Collect 365 window that allows you to send one-off invoices, bulk invoices, or even customer statements. The second pain point that we see a lot of our customers have is there's a lot of inconsistent follow-up. And with that follow-up, they're perhaps using a lot of manual communication. So we have some automated collection plans that are built within Collect 365 that allow you to send some statements automatically based off of a due date or a specific type of calendar that you guys have set. We also have a set of automation in Business Central that is coming within our next release that is going to allow you to send out collection actions based on the due date of an invoice. So, for example, rather than manually having to process something that happens 5, 10, or 15 days past due for a particular invoice, Collect 365 will automate that for you. Lastly, bottom line, Collect 365 is aimed to reduce your bad debt and improve your cash flow. We do have a Collect 365 summary report that comes with the product. And then we do have a DSO calculator that is going to be released in a future release as well. I wanted to highlight that here today because it is something we offer in our collections tool for GP. It essentially allows customers to track their DSO over time and really measure the return on investment of the product itself. So that will be coming in our Collect 365 tool. The last slide here kind of highlights that return on investment too. And really a good way to calculate your return on investment of our collections modules is tracking your days sales outstanding. Your DSO or days sales outstanding is really going to indicate how much you're selling and how fast you're getting paid. And that really just indicates how effective your collection process is working. So the example I have here, just highlighting for simplicity reasons, let's say you're a $36 million company today. That's roughly $3 million a month or $100,000 a day. Let's say you implement Collect 365 using it as a catalyst to decrease your DSO. The example I have here, let's say within the first year of using the collections module, you've decreased your DSO from 45 days down to 40 days. So simply down by 5 days, that would result in another $500,000 in your bank account. So okay, it kind of just shows you the numbers there of how much you could decrease with the collections tool and how much that can impact your actual accounts receivables. With that being said there, like I said, pretty short and sweet PowerPoint. Let's go ahead and hop into Business Central at this time. And what we're looking at here is the collection role center. So I want to talk about a couple of setup items here first before we actually drill into the features and functionalities of Collect 365. So when I log into Business Central myself here, I am set up as a collector. So we have our settings tab here in the top right-hand corner. You can see my role is a collector. So what we've done here with Collect 365 is if you are set up as a collector, this will be the page that you see once you log into Business Central, giving you a high-level overview of your collection activities. So the first thing I can see when I log in is say, okay, I can see the overdue amount here. I can drill into this specific tile and actually see those invoices that are overdue. I can then see here my tasks or notes. So we have pending notes here saying, hey, we have 2 that aren't considered due quite yet, but we do need to do some follow-up with that. We have overdue notes or tasks here saying we have 5 that are already past due. Let's follow up with these customers right away. And then if you ever need to look back on what you've already completed from a task perspective, you'll be able to do that here too. Now I'm kind of giving a high-level overview of this window here, the collection role center, like I said, the starting point for collectors, but everything is really centralized back to this window, and you'll kind of see how that functions throughout today's demonstration. One more thing I want to show you from a setup perspective before we drill into the first feature is the actual Collect 365 setup. And what we've done is we've tried to centralize everything from within this window. So I'm going to kind of go through this pretty quickly because it is just setup items. But from this window here, you're going to actually be able to set specific actions, such as your email scenarios. You'll be able to set up your aging periods here. We're just using standard Business Central formulas to calculate those aging buckets. You'll see that come into play once we get into the main window or the hub. We could set up query defined fields here. We'll discuss the queries later. You'll be able to set up your collectors, collection letters, which are essentially email templates, your actions, statement formats, and then how often you want to frequency those or send those out from an automation perspective. Again, some setup items here. I don't need to spend too much time on this, but ultimately, if and when you do move forward with Collect 365, you'll want to ensure that all these fields are set up before you start to do your collecting. All right, now that we've covered those setup items there, let's drill into the features and functionality. So the collection roll center here, like I said, really the starting point for your collectors. But the second step then will be going to the Collect 365 hub. Now, the nice thing about Business Central is we have this search bar here in the top right-hand corner. What we've done with our product is named it by Collect 365. So realistically, anybody could come in here, type in Collect 365, and then work through the features and functions that we have to offer. I mentioned the Collect 365 hub here. So this is going to show us our customer list in Business Central. So this is showing me all of our customers right now. Maybe I want to filter this though and say, hey, as a collector, I want to focus in on my individual customers. We do have this filters tab here that is standard Business Central, but we've made our product very compatible with that. So for example, I come in and I say, okay, I want to focus in on all of my customers as the admin collector. There you can see it filters down to just those specific customers. Now you notice when you select these customers here, the payment statistics and customer aging is changing off to the right-hand side. But we can get an even more specific view of these customers by drilling into them. For starters, that's going to show some general information here for that particular customer. So I can see who their salesperson is. Again, I can see the collector as myself. I can see their payment term codes here. So they're on our 30-day payment terms. You can see if this customer is blocked or put on hold. You'll also be able to see their balances and balances due, as well as some other accounts receivable information. Now you can drill back into this here. You can see, okay, they owe us $95,000. You can see that's compatible here with their customer aging as well, but you will be able to drill into this and actually see what's past due. This is going to drill into the customer ledger entries, which is core Business Central. But again, we wanted to ensure that our product was very compatible with that. You can see the contacts for that customer down below here, typically the people we're following up with when it comes to collections, as well as their active notes. Now, before we get into the notes here and how we can communicate with these customers, just want to briefly touch on these payment statistics and aging off to the right-hand side. You can see things such as the average days to pay, the last payment date from that customer. In this example here, it's been a while since we've received a payment from School of Fine Art. They're due to owe us some money, but I could see the payment amount, the last payment amount as well, when they did make that payment back in March. Again, we have the customer aging here. This goes back to the aging buckets that I showed you in the setup window. I notice here they have $95,000 that are 91 plus days past due. So I can drill into this here. Again, it pulls open that customer ledger entry window. I can sort through these invoices. I can review the invoice if I want to off to the right-hand side. This is going to pull open those details as well as the line items that total that invoice amount. So again, just showing you that Collect 365 is very compatible with core Business Central. But the question becomes, okay, that's great. We can see the aging, we can see what's past due, but we need to follow up on these customers here. We need to follow up on these past due invoices. How do we do that? We do that from the communication tab here in the top left-hand corner. So from here, I can send a one-off email, or I can create a note for that customer, which again essentially essentially works as a follow-up task. Excuse me. So I can see all of the current tasks or notes for that particular customer. What do I mean by current? Well, we also keep note revisions here as well. So I can see that a lot of these have been modified over time. And maybe I want to look back and see those. So what I can do here is I can actually include the old revisions and see the history trail of each of these notes. So if I drill into that here, then you can see those are expanded. If they're in red, that means that that is part of the history trail itself. You notice this one has 22 different revisions, quite a bit we've done to this particular note, but I always like to use the example here of note revision 2 to note revision 3. I can see that quite a bit was changed at that time. We added a subject at that time, as well as a first line to that note. And I might say to myself as a collector, it's been quite some time since I've made a change to that. Why did I go back and do that at that time? So we can drill into the history of these notes here. You can see this is note revision 2, and all of these fields are locked. I can't change anything, and that's by design, right? We don't want to go back and change the history of a historical note. We want to keep this the same so you can see those revisions and changes made over time. And to see those changes, again, you can just simply scroll through these. I can see then the subject was added in the next revision. You maybe add some new invoices to this particular note. Again, you'll be able to go through and scroll through and see those history of changes. Maybe you want to make a new revision at that time, so we can drill into the most current note here. Again, by default, these fields are going to be locked. We don't want to have you change things accidentally and have something save. So if you want to make any changes here, you have to click this edit button in the top left-hand corner. That will then open up the fields within this window. So let's just go make a simple change here. And then we'll just delete a couple of these. Keep it very simple for today's demo. Now you can see it's note revision 23. I can see that has been changed at this time. Now, if I leave this window here, drill back into the notes, there again, you can see it's just going to show you the most current note. And that's by default again, right? That's typically what we're focusing in on. Great to see the history and revisions that you've made, but not something that we need to look at on a daily basis. Maybe you want to create a new note though here. You can do so from scratch in the top left-hand corner. By default, this will open up the fields here because it is considered a new note. Let's go ahead and add something in here. Let's do a reminder number 3. Let's put a test subject here. Sabre, we'll go 1213. Testing for today's webinar. And then let's go ahead and put in a follow-up date for next Friday. And we can attach some invoices to this as well. So let's add some invoices at this time. Now you're going to see here, all of these are past due just based off of where this customer is at today. If they are past due, they're going to be highlighted in red, like you can see for each of these invoices. If you want to add more than one, you can certainly do that, just clicking the Shift tab on your keyboard. So we've added 3 invoices at that time. You can see here by default, it is going to show you the total amount due once you select those invoices. You can set a status here if you want. If it's open, that means those invoices have not been paid. If it's in progress, that likely means you're collecting on them or have received a partial payment. If you need to cancel a note or if payment does come through, you can mark that as complete. And then you can see the invoices that are attached down here at the bottom. So we leave this note. Now you can see here, testing subject for Sabre, testing for today's webinar, a new note has been created. Now I do want to go all the way back to the collection role center here before I show you how to send a one-off email. You notice nothing has changed on the collection activities as of now, but if I refresh my page here, I now have a new pending note showing us that we need a follow-up next Friday on these 3 invoices. So again, just showing you that all of those collection tasks do flow back to this collection role center or your collection activities, telling you that you'll need to follow up on that customer and those invoices. Let's go back to the Collect 365 hub though here and show you how to send a one-off email. We'll stick with the School of Fine Art as well. Now, by default, it's going to pull open some general information for that particular customer so I can see their balance and their balance that is due. And then we're going to want to select an actual collection letter here. So these letters here, again, kind of email templates, if you will. I'm going to show you all how to create a collection letter in just a few minutes. But the goal here is to not have to recreate the wheel every time you want to send a one-off email. We understand that these are likely templates that you can use over and over again, versus having to manually type that out. So I'm going to go with the initial letter here first. You notice the next field is document copies required. For this particular collection letter, the answer is no. But if I were to switch this to an overdue letter, now that is physically forcing me to put actual invoice attachments on this particular letter. That is a setup option that I'm going to show you all here in just a few minutes when it comes to creating those letters. But if you were to actually use this particular letter here that is forcing those invoice attachments, let's say I want to unattach all of these here and send off an email, you're going to get a warning or an error message here that says you need to attach at least 1 invoice before you send this email off. So let's go ahead and select a couple there again. We also have the ability to attach documents down here at the bottom. This would allow you to browse through your file explorer and attach anything from here. So let's just put in documentation. We'll put in a collect brochure. That's relevant to today's demo. So we close this out. I now have one attachment there. Everything else looks good. You could put statements on here as well if you wanted to. Again, that is one of the new features we've added to Collect 365. You can certainly do that from a one-off perspective, but again, that is an automated feature as well. You can have statements automatically sent out. Once you're ready to send off this email to a customer, you'll click Email Letter. Takes just a quick minute here to render that and create the email itself. You're then going to be able to see the body of that email here. You can modify this if you wanted to. So you say, hey, Megan Bond, here are your past due invoices. You would be able to put in things such like that, even though that was already predefined. You have some editing features down here at the bottom. And then I can also see the invoices that I've attached along with that Collect 365 brochure. You will be able to review these invoices before they get sent out. So this is what it would look like from a customer perspective. And then maybe you want to delete one of these invoices, or in this example, say, hey, I actually don't need to send them a brochure. You can simply delete it at that time and it is removed. You then have the option here to send that email, discard the draft, or if you go to leave this window, we're going to give you two options saying, hey, do you want to keep this as a draft in your email outbox, or do you want to discard the email at that time? Now, I've already sent an email to myself here prior to today's demonstration. So here's what that would look like then from the customer side of things. Kept it very simple from a demo perspective here today. But again, we're saying, hey, Megan Bond, here is your past due balance. And here are the invoices that are attached associated with that. So that is what that one-off email would look like. But let me go ahead and show you how to set up those collection letters or those email templates. We're going to go back to the role center here. Now, if I type in Collect 365, as I mentioned earlier, you do have the ability to create collection letters from here. But being that Collect 365 letters are one of the more important features, we have included this as an individual feature as well, should you want to go directly there. Now, we do have a few collection letters that come with the product by default. You can see here we have a Collect Automation Admin email. We have an automated statement email as well. By all means, you can take advantage of that. And then from a one-off perspective, we have the overdue letter and the initial letter. Now, I mentioned earlier, if you want to actually force physical attachments, you can simply hit this checkbox here. And then if you want to create your own collection letters, you can do so from scratch or use these custom report layouts. Business Central does give you a handful of templates that you can work through here. I highly recommend taking advantage of the ones that we've already created because they are collection specific. We'll stick with that overdue theme here that we've worked with already. So we go with the overdue letter. We can actually export this into Microsoft Word. And here's what that would look like. So I'm just going to enable the editing here, everyone. So you can see we have some functions built within this collection letter. Just like the one-off email, you can type whatever you want inside of here. But let's say you want to add some of your own functions within this collection letter. In order to do that, you have to go into the developer mode, design mode, XML mapping pane. So this is going to give you those functions or schemas. So you can see here, you're just going to be able to drag and drop these, include these within the collection letter itself. We have quite a few here, so just bear with me. And then here, the last one is very specific to the customer ledger entry details, very specific to customers and collections. So you can, again, just put those within the collection letter itself. But you have all the freedom in the world to set these up as you feel fit, whatever makes sense from a collection purpose or a collection activity. You guys will be able to edit and modify these along the way. Nothing is ever permanent. But again, we understand that you guys are likely going to want to continue to use the same collection letters over time. So this would allow you to do that. And then once you have your collection letters created, same process here. You're just going to import those back into Collect 365 or Business Central. All right, hopping back to the role center here. Last feature I want to show everyone today is building a query. And one of the first problems we've seen with customers doing their collections is finding the customers that they should be calling first. That's because most customers using GP or Business Central today collect using an age trial balance, where customers are sorted alphabetically and not by collector. So we get to use this build queries window here to focus in on a specific group of customers that we want to work with. Now you can create a new one from scratch here in the top left-hand corner versus going through the entire field here. I did create one earlier again, just to give you guys an idea of how this would work from a simple perspective. Now, by default, we're going to show you the general information, and this is very specific to the query itself, not the set of customers that we're trying to find with the query that we're building. Now, why do we do that? Again, just like the collection letters that we covered just a minute ago, these queries are likely things that you guys are going to want to use on a reoccurring basis. You don't want to have to recreate the wheel every time you're building a query. You certainly have the ability to do that. We're not limiting you on how many queries you build, but an example could be show me everybody who's got an invoice that's 90 days past due. You don't want to have to recreate that query every single time. So you can save these queries in advance and then just use them on a reoccurring basis. But again, why do we highlight that here in the general information? Well, just in case anytime you come in here, you can say to yourself, when was the last time I actually ran this? For me, it's been a full month since I've ran this particular query. So odds are I might have some new customers that meet the restrictions that I've set below for those customers or document filters. So then I can actually process that at that time, refresh the query data, and then it's going to go to today's date, time, and show me if any new customers have been added. In this example, being that it is just by demo environment, nobody new was added, but again, we want to show you here the last time that you did run that. We also want to show you the last time it was modified. Maybe you have a colleague who comes in and changes the query. You'd be able to see if they modified at that time, the date and time they did so you could have that conversation with your colleague saying, hey, why did you make any changes here? Maybe they did have something that they wanted to add to a query. You'd also be able to see if any of those changes were made by yourself. Okay, so that's the general information on the query itself, but let's focus in now on the specific filters when it comes to finding that set list of customers. We can focus in on a specific customer if we wanted to. We could focus in on a customer name filter, a collector code filter, salesperson filter. You'd be able to focus in on a specific territory or a reminder term, as well as the payment terms, and include customers with recent payments. Maybe say to yourself, hey, if you made a payment within the last 30 days, we're not going to bug you here today. You can put in balance due filters, balances that exceed credit limit, and include customers even if there are no documents. So normally if no documents fits the query criteria for a customer, the customer would be excluded from the query. So you can change that here as well. And then you're also going to be able to filter in on specific documents or invoices. So you can focus in on closed documents, include only overdue documents, include entries that are on hold or customers who are blocked. You can focus in on specific aging periods here. So again, maybe you say, hey, show me everybody who's got an invoice that's 91 plus days past due. You can set different document dates as well as different due dates. Go back to aging periods, and then you can exclude customer if customer has older aging. We also have the ability here to query collect 365 notes, and then have the ability to use document dimension filters. We've seen this very specific with staffing firm customers. Not entirely sure anybody would need to take advantage of that on today's call, but if by all means you're using the document dimension filters, you would be able to query your customers based on that as well. So I've created a very simple query here today saying, hey, show me all of my customers as collector, this collector. We have 2 customers that meet that criteria. Once I have my restrictions set, I'm then going to process and query those results. So then I can see the 2 customers who meet that criteria. You notice if I select them, it's changing their invoices down here at the bottom. So we could follow up on that specific customer if we wanted to. You can actually drill back to their customer card from here. You can drill into the Collect 365 hub window from here. And then you'll also be able to communicate to each of these customers. So you can see we have this communication tab here at the top. You can send a one-off email to the customer you have selected. You can send a mass email to those who are highlighted, or say, hey, just send a mass email to all. And then you'll also be able to mass create notes from here. Just to give you guys an example of how that would work, you can select customers in bulk and say, hey, send everybody who's actually highlighted here. So that allows you to send things in bulk. Again, the example I use, you have customers who have 91 plus days past due of an invoice. You get 20 customers who meet that criteria. You don't want to send those 20 customers the same one-off email over and over and over again. So you can put them in a query here and then bulk process that email at the same time. You'll also be able to assign these to different collectors too, especially when you're first using Collect 365. You can do that in a one-off instance, but the goal here is to be able to do that in bulk, so you'll be able to do that from the queries window as well. With that being said, everyone, that is going to wrap up today's demonstration. Again, first and foremost, just want to thank you all for taking the time out of your day to view Collect 365. I do appreciate that. I also want to thank the Sabre team again for having Professional Advantage on. I am pulling open some of my contact details here now, but if you reach out to the Sabre team, by all means, I'll be in communication with them, but you can reach out to me directly should you have any questions regarding today's Collect 365 demo. With that being said, let's go ahead and take that final Q&A.
All right. Thank you so much for that presentation, Griffin. That was awesome. So now's the time for any questions. If anybody has anybody, we'll get started with some questions that have been submitted through the Q&A. So the first question I have here is, do you have any reporting options with Collect 365?
We do. We do have the Collect 365 summary report. And so let me just pull that open here. Where is my Google? There we go. So yeah, here's the Collect 365 summary report. And so what we've done is we've used a lot of the standard Business Central filters. This is something that we are looking to expand in the future as well. It does offer a lot here today. You can see here, you can focus in on a specific customer detail. You can filter in on specific total details, customer ledger entries, specific notes. We even have an advanced version for you there as well. So yes, there is a lot that we offer from this window here today. I don't know if I have a preview ready here. Let's see. So yeah, this is kind of an idea of what that Collect 365 summary report would look like. Obviously very basic from what I've just created here, but again, you do have a lot of freedom here when it comes to creating that report. And again, if you guys have something that you would like to add to this, we're all ears. We want to develop this to fit our customers' needs, but we believe what we have out there today, especially from a day-to-day and Collect perspective that we offer right now, this covers pretty much everything from that perspective. But again, this is definitely something we look to expand in the future.
Awesome. All right. I have another question here for you. Are we able to use our own email addresses to email out of Collect 365, or do we need to use a standard company email address?
Yeah, completely up to you as a company. We see most people use their own individual emails, but if you do have a standard kind of accounts receivable email that you use as a company, you'll be able to set that up as well. We're essentially just using the standard Dynamics 365 emailing functionality. So yeah, you will have the freedom to set that up as you feel fit.
Amazing. And one last question, definitely not the least. How does pricing work?
Yeah, so pricing is going to be based on the number of Collect 365 users that you want to have access to the module, not your entire BC user count. We will probably ask for that just from kind of a marketing perspective, but we only price it based on the number of users that need access to the module. So if you have 20 users today, but only 3 need access to it, we charge $600 per user. So example, 3 users would be $1,800.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Griffin.
Of
I
course.
think that's all the questions that we have for today, but we'd like to thank everybody for attending this webinar. And of course, thank you, Griffin, for presenting. It was an awesome presentation.
Yeah, thank you guys for having us on today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Well, I guess that's everything, and hope everybody has a great day, and we hope to see everybody again soon.